If everything can be paused, I will ask the spiritual court to put death on hold, so we can have time to breathe, and the rain of tears shall stop.
I have an appeal to the Supreme Court of Justice and Truth. Your mediation is necessary. Pause everything for a moment.
Look at them. When they speak to a white person, they are very respectful. They show manners. When they speak to a black person, they are violent. But let's ask a question. After you marched and say you don't want Zimbabweans, you don't want Nigerians, you don't want Ghanaians, you close shops, you march. Why are you not coming back to tell us the following day that after that march, we expelled 10 Zimbabweans, and out of those 10 Zimbabweans, we're able to give 10 South Africans jobs?
That the international community should rule this matter, but not the action of revoking any license. We are not going to touch any business of South Africa, and we won't touch the business of any country. We believe strongly that with diplomatic engagements, these issues will be resolved. But at the same time, we demand justice for those who have been killed, and we will demand reparation, we demand compensation. We believe also that
I would like to begin by saying, if you want to understand the issues that are affecting South Africa or what South Africans are going through, it's very important not to bring in the politicians, because the politicians will always have a way to divert the attention to themselves. Same applies to your personal issues, your family problems. You should never bring a pastor, because a pastor, the moment you speak or the moment you start speaking, a pastor is thinking about, like, for an example, the church and all those things, because they want to manipulate you. They want, not, in other words, your solutions to align with how they think. Same applies to the politicians. It's like that. When you bring your issues, they are not ready to listen, but they are ready to educate. This is what is happening. They don't want to listen. They are always dismissive, unless maybe your problems or your solutions are aligned with their ideologies. In most cases, these people are not willing to come on the ground so that they can listen to the people. Every time when they come to the people, they want to educate. They want to educate. It is their goals and objectives to educate the people. They want to educate the people. There's nothing wrong with that. But in most cases, they don't want to listen. However, if you are a leader, you should also have a listening skill. Don't always be dismissive. For an example, if you have children and they always bring certain issues, you cannot always be dismissive. You can never be dismissive all the time. In other words, sometimes you need to humble yourself and say, you know what? They've been bringing these issues to me in many occasions. So let me just humble myself. Let me just sit down and listen to what they have to say. Don't always be dismissive. Come to the people. Listen to the issues of the people, what people are going through every day. Because if you don't listen to the people, you'll always think that you understand what people are going through. And your solutions and your answers will always be out of context. It's important for the politicians to come to the people and listen, not to educate all the time, because these politicians, they want to act smart because they understand the politics, they understand history, They understand everything. And according to them, the people on the ground, they have to listen. It's like the people on the ground, they don't know anything. That is why it's very difficult to understand these people or to accept these people. It doesn't mean I always disagree with the politicians. Sometimes I agree with them, but in most cases, I disagree with them because they always want to educate. They are not like willing to listen to the people, even if at the end of the day, you will disagree with the solutions that are proposed by the community or that are proposed by the people. But it's important, like, to sit down and listen to the issues, because if you can sit down and listen, then probably you yourself, you may come up with like various solutions or alternative solutions, or some of their concerns and their issues may start adding up in your mind. But you know what? I know that my people will keep on like voting for these people, because at the end of the day, we want to try by all means to like have hope so that we can put someone, because we are always expecting that someone will come and deliver us, someone will come and be the Messiah.
Of white people. Look at them. When they speak to a white person, they are very respectful. They show manners. When they speak to a black person, they are violent. But let's ask a question. After you marched and say you don't want Zimbabweans, you don't want Nigerians, you don't want Ghanaians, you close shops, you march, why are you not coming back to tell us the following day that after that march, we expelled 10 Zimbabweans, and out of those 10 Zimbabweans, we're able to give 10 South Africans jobs?
Everybody's scared of white people. But I don't want to go there. But everybody is scared. Everybody is scared. Why? Because if we were not scared, we wouldn't have like fallen into those lies of Mandela and others. But because we are scared, that is why we are hoping that one day politics will rescue us. We are hoping that one day we'll get a 2/3 majority. One day, like for an example, we will take the land through the voting system. It won't happen. It's because everybody is scared. Everybody is scared. So it doesn't mean it's only certain people who are scared. We are all scared. If we have to put it, for an example, in that context, that is why we are all convinced that political system will help us one day. That is why every time after the elections, we are always disappointed. ANC has won again. Then we have to keep on hoping that probably in 2016 something will happen. In 2019 something will happen. 2024 something will happen. 2029 something will happen. And 2030 something will happen. We'll keep on hoping. Why? It's because we are scared. All of us, we are scared. We are scared. Even the likes of Tinubu, they are scared. Everybody is scared. When we talk about people who are brave here in Africa, we're talking about people like Ibrahim Traore. In other words, they had to do something. They said, you know what? We are tired. We have to come up with a strategy so that we can have power, not to become puppets. General Assimi Goita, these are the people who are brave when you talk about bravery. But everybody is scared. But let me talk about this thing of slaves' jobs. That's not entirely true. So that is why it's important for people to come on the ground, because I always talk about the issue of the law. What does the law says when it comes to labor department and employment? What does the law says? Because every country has its own laws. Every country has its own laws. If I go to Nigeria, I won't be treated as a Nigerian on paper when it comes to administration, irregardless of whether we are both black or we are all black. Why? Because there are laws that are governing the citizens, and there are laws, again, that are administering non-Nigerians or non-Ghanaians and so forth and so forth. It's a matter of law here, but they always want to be dismissive. They always want to shy away from this thing of the what does the law say? And this thing of crime rate. We have to focus on the crime rate, the statistics and everything. What are the issues? The security here in all these things. We have to focus on all these things. We cannot just say, okay, everybody who's undocumented can just come in and do as they please. We cannot do that. In other words, we have to raise a certain concerns when it comes to security, when it comes to following the laws of Labor Department, following the laws of the Constitution and the laws in Home Affairs, and etc., etc. We have to focus on those things. You cannot just say, these are the slaves' jobs. This is not entirely true. Let me just put it this way. Where I'm living right now, there are many South Africans who are working without any pay slip. They work overtime, and that overtime is not even getting paid. Where they work is not even conducive. So I can say, because I don't want to disrespect them, but I can say those jobs, for a lack of a better word, are similar to slaves' jobs. But yet, they are working for those jobs in order for them to survive, in order for them to put bread on the table. There are many South Africans who can wake up tomorrow and go and do those jobs. Why? Because they got nothing to do. They don't have bread and they don't have anything to put on the table. In other words, they cannot, for an example, feed their children to the fullest. So that is why they are willing to go out there, because there are many others who are already in those jobs. How can you just be on a podium, stand on a podium, and you promise people things that are not possible? Because everybody is scared. You have to promise people if you are not scared. Because this, for an example, economic freedom, which people are always talking about, it will never come through the political system, because the political system belongs to the colonizer. So that is why the colonizer will always try by all means to bring more political parties in order to divide the votes, to come up with a system that will help his system to reign forever. That's how it works. This is a system. So it's not true that these are slave jobs. Yes, for a lack of a better phrase, I can put it like that. But we have to understand that there are many people who are going through those jobs. In other words, who are waking up in the morning to go and work for such similar jobs without disrespecting them. But I don't want to talk about white people and etc., because we all know that we are all scared.
There is no such a report. Why? Because now kabakuba maZimbabwe hauna misebetsi batho bale ba maZimbabwe ba etsa mesebetsi e lona le sabatleng o etsa because those are slaves jobs. They don't pay anything. You want proper jobs. You want a job with a pay slip, with an appointment letter, with pension, with medical aid, and you deserve it. But why are we fighting each other?
Even when it comes to those jobs, we still have those jobs that will give you a pay slip and etc. and etc. and etc. But those jobs are still occupied by non-South Africans. But when you look at the law, because this thing is not about black and white, I understand the issue of black and white because I always talk about the issues of black and white. But right now, we are talking about the laws according to Labor Department. Who should be hired for certain jobs? Who should not be hired for those jobs? For an example, to be a cashier, to become, like, for an example, a petrol attendant, a truck driver, a taxi driver, and all those different kinds of jobs, to become like a security officer, like to become, like, for an example, a teacher. Some of those jobs requires a certain skill, and we already have those people in South Africa in accordance of the Labor Department, not according to me, according to the Labor Department. So that is why the government and these politicians, they have to answer. They have to bring certain answers to the people and say, you know what, forget about those laws that are there in Labor Department. They are now null and void. Probably the frustration amongst the people will go down because they'll know that, okay, everybody will be hired. In other words, people can come from wherever, then they can come and do as they please. People can come from other countries and come and work here. Because right now, we have a problem of these companies, because if you are acting this way, this is a sign that you are also scared of the white people. You're also scared of the white people because you are protecting the very same companies that are taking advantage of the very same people, the Zimbabweans, the Nigerians, and etc. Because these companies, they pay them less, and they have accepted those jobs. They have accepted those conditions. In other words, to work for less. In other words, everybody is scared in this context. Everybody is scared of, like, for an example, approaching these companies to say, you have to follow their law, because right now, as we speak, these companies, they don't follow the law. They are breaking all these laws in the name of making a profit. So that is why they're like, okay, we have to put South Africans aside, and then so that we can focus on the others, so that we can pay them whatever. And on top of that, the most painful thing is that we have many people in government, we have many people in politics who have shares in these companies. Some, they own these companies as individuals or a majority shareholder. But the most painful thing is that instead of hiring South Africans, they go out there and they hire non-South Africans and they pay them less. Why I say this is very painful is because these are the very same people who come to the people promising them jobs, acting as if they understand what people are going through. But at the same time, they have certain companies, they have big companies out there, and they have shares in certain companies, and they decide to hire non-South Africans in order for them to make profit, in order for them to make money, or in order to help these companies they have shares in to make profit, to make more money. So it's important to sit down with South Africans and listen to them and listen to their issues. The most painful thing again is that social media has now become like mainstream media. It's no longer interesting. It's no longer like, for an example, back then in 2005, 2006, 2008, 2010, social media was interesting because you could, like, for an example, hear genuine concerns of the people. That is why mainstream media at that time hated social media, because social media was unique. But these days, you will also get propaganda from social media. This is the problem. This is the problem. That is why right now we have many content creators, can be on TikTok, can be everywhere. We just spread propaganda without, like, for an example, focusing on the concerns of the people on the ground. Now we have become like politicians. That is why it's important to go on the ground, listen to the people. Listen to the people, regardless of their political affiliation. Listen to them. Then you will understand what is going on, what is happening, and what you are expected to do, or the solution that you need to bring to the community.
It is the same people who made us fight each other during apartheid, black on black violence. They sponsored it. The same provinces where blacks were killing blacks during apartheid, sponsored by apartheid government, is the same provinces where blacks are beating blacks today.
That's true. That's true. We have to understand that the colonizers are sponsoring everything. The colonizers are sponsoring certain activists, and they are also sponsoring certain politicians and political parties in order to divide and rule. They also sponsor certain social media content creators. They are also in mainstream media. The colonizers are everywhere, sponsoring everybody. Why? Because they benefit in disorder. They benefit in chaos. In other words, through chaos, the colonizer is benefiting. I agree that the colonizer has messed up with our minds, because we should not beat people. But at the same time, we have non-South Africans who come here and they tell us that we are lazy. They are using the very same tactics of the colonizer. That is why I'm like, everybody is scared of the colonizer and everybody is serving the colonizer, because we don't want to sit down and focus on the real issues. To say, when the situation is like this, we cannot bring everybody into a certain area, because that area or that region will be overcrowded. And once it is overcrowded, then people will be frustrated. In other words, certain issues will rise as a result of overcrowding. So that is why the likes of Tinubu should wake up. Mr. Tinubu, it's important for you to wake up as well. Don't just issue sanctions against South Africa. Don't just demand reparations against South Africa. Also demand reparations against the colonizers. Make sure that young people in Nigeria also get opportunities when it comes to private sector, when it comes to businesses, when it comes to government sector, when it comes to everything. Give them a chance. Same applies as Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa should do the very same thing as well. Allow young people in the economy of Zimbabwe. Let them run it. Invest in your people. Same applies as Ramaphosa again. Do the very same thing. Come to the people. Listen to the people. Everybody should do the same thing. Everybody is scared. Everybody is scared. When we talk about brave people, we can only talk about General Chiani, General Goita, Captain Ibrahim Traore. These are the people we can say at least they are brave because they are dealing with the colonizer. In other words, they tell the colonizer to say, go away, leave our country. In other words, when they promise people something, they do it instantly.
The script is the same. The writer of the script is the same. After removing a black child from school, when the black children were removed from school with bullets in 1976.
As the frustration rises, those things will happen. Those things will happen. Like for an example, let's say maybe you are renting a place somewhere with your wife and kids and maybe some of your relatives. You are a breadwinner. You are in charge. You are in control of everything. But as time goes by, you stop paying rent because probably you have your own reasons or maybe certain issues. You're going through something. That is why you're not paying a rent. But there'll come a time. There'll come a time when the landlord will come and kick you out of that particular property. Sometimes they may come by themselves. Sometimes they may come through the court order to remove you out of the property. Your children will be affected as well. Your wife will be affected. People who are depending on you will be affected as well. So that is why all these things should be addressed in advance before they happen. All these things should be addressed in advance before they happen. In other words, these politicians, they should ask themselves various questions. Why people are complaining about non-South Africans, maybe from other African countries? They should do their assignments or their homeworks very well. They have to make a study about those issues. In other words, they should also help those leaders like Mnangagwa and others to say, you know what? There's this problem here in South Africa. What are you doing in order for you to deal with this problem? But instead of like confronting these leaders, no, they're not doing that. They are not doing that. They want to attack South Africans, the very same people who are frustrated. And it's easy for them to do so. Why? Because we are already divided. We are already divided because I will always protect my leader. That is why I'm not a member of any other politician or of any other political party. And these are my personal views. And I'm trying by all means to express them respectfully so, without disrespecting them and without disrespecting anyone. But I'm like, if you want to understand these issues to the fullest, come to the people. Come to the people. That is why I always advise some people from America who come from Europe, they've never been to Africa, and they want to come to Africa. I'm like, if you want to come to Africa, don't just go to Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town. You have to come to the people so that you can understand the culture, so that you can understand what people are going through, so that you can make like a proper decision whether you want to come and invest in South Africa or not. This is the same thing when it comes to the politicians. They need to come to the people. Because it's like when they think about their people, they think about their neighbors, the people they live with in their neighborhoods where they are staying, or in the communities where they are staying. And this is the problem. The most important thing is to understand the people. These frustrations will always be there. And they will affect the children. And that's not what we want. That is why we're like, leaders, calm down. Calm down, because we know that you are scared of white people. And we are also scared of you because you will like issue the police against us. But now come and listen to us, because we are all scared. But calm down so that we can all listen. We can all have time to listen to one another.
When our parents were removed from school because they did not have school fees, I must play that role. Me, I will never do it. I'm not going to take a pregnant woman out of a clinic because she's not South African. She gives birth.
Obvious. The moment we talk about a pregnant woman, what comes in your mind? Sympathy. Sympathy. The parable of a prodigal son. The prodigal son went out there and lost everything. What comes in your mind? Sympathy. You get what I'm saying? The story of a widow who was very poor in the Bible. What comes in your mind? Sympathy. You want to empathize, or you want to sympathize. But as I've said, these problems, as a result of frustrations, will always rise. In other words, it's like water. You cannot stop it. It's like wind. You cannot stop it. It's like hurricane. You cannot stop it the moment it happens. So that is why when it comes to these issues, you need to address them, because you are at a position of leadership. In government, ANC, African National Congress should try by all means to address these things. So these are opposing political parties. When the situation is like this, they have to divert the war to African National Congress, because African National Congress is in power right now. They have to say, what are you doing about these issues? Because our people are concerned about 1, 2, 3. In other words, by so doing, you are trying by all means to prevent these things before they happen, so that at the end of the day, pregnant women are not affected. Children are not affected. Prevention is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. But if you are going to talk like this, you become like a pastor. And the moment a pastor starts talking about these issues, then you connect. You begin to sympathize. You can even cry, because now a pregnant woman has been kicked out of the hospital, and that's not a good thing.
Of an African child at the gate, and that child dies. And you want me to do that and be proud and look at my children and say, I'm a proud father after I stopped life, after I killed someone. I will not do that. I did not join politics to be voted for. I was too young when I joined politics. These positions that I have came as a result of my participation. I am not in politics to be elected.
In other words, guys, I don't believe in politics. That is why I'm like, when it comes to voting for these people, it's a waste of time. So, but if they tell you that they are there because they are not looking for votes, it may be reasonable that these people, they want to fight for you. But if they will continue like dismissing your issues and everything, you better leave them. If maybe there's another political party, maybe you believe in politics, then maybe you can choose another political party or a different leader, someone who can listen to your issues. In other words, the issues of unemployment, the issues of crime, the issues of like undocumented people in South Africa. You need someone who can listen to you when it comes to those issues, but not to educate you and tell you about heaven and earth or tell you about whatever they want to tell you.
I'm in politics to articulate a position of African people who have been oppressed for too long. We are not saying any Zimbabwean, Nigerian, Ghanaian must bring crime here. The same way no South African must bring crime here. Anyone who brings drugs, South African or Nigerian, must be dealt with according to the laws of South Africa.
So that is why even when it comes to those who are undocumented, the companies that are breaking the law of Labor Department because they don't want to hire South Africans, they have to be dealt with according to the law of South Africa, because you cannot follow the law of South Africa when it comes to drugs, but you don't want to follow the law of South Africa when it comes to addressing employment laws or employment issues in South Africa. So it's very important for us not to lie to one another because we want to maybe please one another. We want to satisfy one another. It's important to look at the context. If you want to understand somebody else's problem, listen to them. Don't just give them an advice without listening to them. As I've said in the beginning of this video, that the worst thing that you can do when it comes to addressing your family issues is to go to the pastors, because in other words, they will try by all means to try to fix this whole thing in a holy way, like in a church way, even when it's not necessary.
Not mob justice. Let's deal with illegal immigration through the laws of this country. The Minister of Home Affairs is a DA minister, but they never match to the Minister of Home Affairs, who is responsible for illegal immigrants. Why? They are scared of white people. Look at them. When they speak to a white person, they are...
Everybody's scared. Everybody's scared. This thing, man, is not only the issue of the matter of the Minister of Home Affairs. The Minister of Home Affairs found that mess there. In other words, when he got himself in that position, that mess was already there. And he cannot fix the mess because everything is the system. You know, even if you can become, like, for an example, a governor, a president, but as long as this whole thing is benefiting the system, there's absolutely nothing you can do. That is why right now we have a DA minister as like the Minister of Home Affairs, but there's absolutely nothing he can do because the corruption is still there. We are experiencing the corruption from Labor Department, from Home Affairs every day. I witness it personally every day. There's absolutely nothing he can do because everything has to align with the system.
Very respectful, they show manners. When they speak to a black person, they are violent. When is that march going to Cape Town? Because a lot of illegal immigrants, white immigrants, are in Cape Town. Let's see them going to Cape Town and asking whites to produce their IDs. The same way here in Northwest, a lot of whites say they...
This is very important. That's true. In Cape Town, we have a lot of people. In Cape Town, we have a lot of white people who are not legal, who are not documented according to the laws of South Africa. But here is the context that we have to understand. Right now, the focus of these marches are focusing in places where the majority of people are staying. That's the context. I'm not defending them. And I'm still expecting them to go in Cape Town, to go in all these places and help South Africans who are voiceless. I'm still expecting these marches to go all over and try by all means to not just deal with certain people, but to deal with everybody. But we have to understand that whenever these politicians are raising these issues, it's not because they are raising these issues because they want to be helpful. They want to prove to us why they are loved by the whole world. It's because they are the heroes of everybody else.
Own land, if you ask them to produce a title deed, they don't have. They gave each other the land early 90s when they saw that democracy was coming. So many white people are here in South Africa, illegal labor. They must be treated the same way we treat others. Bona, they are even worse. They've got our land.
No, he's right. He's right. But when it comes to land, this is what we expect from them. We expect them to take the land on our behalf. But they are also scared. But he's right as well, because there are many others. There are many other white people. They'll just scare you and tell you that they own a certain farm. And you don't even take time to question that. And I've discovered that a lot of them don't have title deeds. They don't have title deeds. But because we are scared, we let them pass.
Economic freedom. Oshapali Zimbabwe, Liatamaya, you remain landless.
Some of the issues he raised are also important. Because I don't want to be dismissive like the politicians. So whenever they tell the truth, we have to accept. But in this video, I just wanted to put my focus on the real issue so that you can understand the context where this whole thing comes from. Because at the end of the day, people will say South Africans are not loving. South Africans are loving people. South Africans are loving people. All these years from 1994, we've been living here with everybody. So some of the people here from Nigeria, they've been here even before 1994. Some of them from 1994, and etc., etc. Some of these people, they've been here for over 10 years. But the problem is when the frustration keeps on growing. And some people may say, why South Africans are scared of white people? I said that. We are scared because we are still under colonialism. The politicians are scared. The presidents are scared. Everybody is scared. The likes of Tinubu, Mnangagwa, everybody is scared. Everybody is scared. But here's the thing. Nelson Mandela and many others convinced us that as time goes by, everything will be okay. Then we woke up late, realizing that these people lied to us. So that is why right now, as we speak, we have other programs that are dealing with those issues. That is why I'm like, people should not be beaten. We can deal with these issues without beating anyone, without killing anyone. That's the most important thing. Then at the end of the day, we can say, you know what? We have fixed all these issues without shedding any blood, if possible. This is what we want. But it doesn't mean we in other words, we have put aside all these issues, the issues of land and everything else. But these issues are not the same. We have to understand, are not the same. In other words, when we are dealing with certain issues, people should not come and say, why are you not dealing with 1, 2, 3? The most important thing is that we have to understand that everything has its own schedule. This is my understanding. But I'm like, we are all brothers and sisters. But the most important thing, I cannot go to the land of Tinubu and do as I please. We cannot go to America and, like, for an example, the law of America, they start prioritizing us over the Americans. How will they feel? Frustration will also grow amongst them. We cannot, like, for an example, millions of us, thousands and thousands of us, we go to Uganda. Then in Uganda, the people in Uganda, even if they are a loving people, then the frustration will start growing. So when we talk about the unity of Africa, we want to destroy all these we want to destroy all these borders. We have to first deal with the colonizer. All of these leaders, they should come together and say, you know what, we want to destroy the colonial borders. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, amongst these leaders, no one is interested in destroying these borders. No one is interested in unity.
If everything can be paused, I will ask the spiritual court to put death on hold so we can have time to breathe, and the rain of tears shall stop.
I have an appeal to the Supreme Court of Justice and Truth. Your mediation is necessary. Pause everything for a moment.